Hello, my fellow becoming woman. Today is the 20th of October 2025. I want to share something with you today that I was thinking about on my walk. How we define the role of our past in our lives. We can say our past is a collection of memories for us. It's a baggage we carry, something to reminisce about or regret. It can be happy or painful. But when we define our past as one of the landscapes of our becoming, it turns into a tool in our hands. And that makes our past powerful and also empowering. So I want to share with you something from my past and not just simply share the story, but let it be a tool, which means that I don't just remember it, but remember it with the purpose of reflecting on it so that I can recognize how that past event helped me to grow. I just simply call this extracting the gold because once you found the gold of a story of your past, you don't need it anymore. You can move forward, and you can move forward from a new enlightened place. And here is an important point about extracting the gold from your past. Have you ever heard, our mind cannot differentiate between reality and imagination? This is why reality is subjective, because we all have our unique perspective, and this perspective comes from the unique mixture of our imagination with reality, and then we project that onto the world. Therefore, how we see our past depends on our perspective in any given moment. In other words, we get to choose how we see our past. We can see the hardship, the pain, the difficulties, or we can extract the gold. And I am not saying it's easy or it wouldn't take time. I know it does. But when the time is right, I can choose to use my past as a tool to serve my becoming, my growth, with the gold that is hidden in it. If you have listened to a previous episode, I talked about the wheel of life, which means I divide life into 9 specific contexts, 9 specific life areas, if you like. And today I want to share a part of my past in the context of family. And I really believe it's so important that we define the context, because otherwise our past can become this overwhelming flow of river that is coming at us from all directions. So the story itself is simple. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. There was a lot of alcohol present. My father was often drunk, and he carried a lot of anger and bitterness and very little capacity for joy. I took responsibility for his behavior, which caused me a lot of fear and shame, which then made me hide. This manifested in a way that I never invited my friends or schoolmates over because I was so scared that they would see my father drunk and I would have to be so ashamed of that. And this was a prevailing theme in my growing up. At 18, I decided to move to my grandmother, and that gave me a sense of freedom and the beginning of rewriting my story, my life. It gave me an empowerment that I can move myself out of a situation and move myself forward, that there is always a way in life to choose something different. Then, when I was 25, there was an opportunity to move to the UK as an au pair, which then began to bring a lot of gold into my life. I was thousands of kilometers away from my family. I found myself in a different world, in a different life. The family I lived with as an au pair was not my family, of course, but when I met other au pairs and we introduced ourselves to each other, in our introductions we always referred to those host families as my family. My family lives in this part of town and they have 2 children I look after for, and so on. So this phrase, my family, started to have a new meaning and carried much less emotional charge. I didn't have to take responsibility for their behavior or anything about them. And even though I was 25 and really a young adult by then, this was the first time I could break fully away from the secrets. It was my experience of not hiding my life. I wasn't worrying about being found out or being judged by the behavior of my family. These experiences showed me a new perspective. The truth is, I would have never been able to cut ties with my parents, but this physical distance of living in another country gave me emotional and mental space to think, to feel, to breathe, and to eventually learn about myself. And when I went home to visit, I could prepare myself mentally and emotionally to being back with my family. I could choose how long I would stay for, and through this process I learned to set boundaries. And of course, it is not a surprise that being able to deal with my family dynamics was a huge leap in my journey of becoming. It always is for everybody. Through this journey, I was able to redefine what family meant to me. I had a space where I could stop hiding and begin to see myself, and also show myself to others. It was a true opening to evolve into a new version of me, and essentially, I really found myself in the UK, in this life. And you see, it could have turned out differently. I could have stayed in that fear and shame and believed that no matter where I was, my past would catch up with me. But I do believe that we all have that ability in us to shift into a new perspective, to recognize that we are in the present and the past is in the past. And that huge physical distance between me and my family helped me to stay in that present moment and to find the gold and take it and see the past with a different perspective. So for me, traveling from one place to another wasn't just a physical journey, but a life journey, both literally and metaphorically, a journey of evolution. I stepped out of the old and stepped into a new. I claimed the life that was becoming mine. And I want to close this episode with this, with an invitation for you to think of a context of your life, an area of your life, and see your journey of becoming, how that area of your life provided with your next evolution. Look at the past in a specific context. How did the gold reveal itself to it? So this is the voice log of our becoming for today, and I'm inviting you to subscribe to my Substack, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, any questions, and your journey of becoming. I would love to know. I'll see you next time. Much love, Diana.